Welcome to today's Doge USDT perpetual strategy analysis, dated May 9th, 2026. Let's begin with a quick review of the four core signals in this system. TS, trend entry long, signals a long entry. S, exit sell, confirms long continuation and serves as a long add-on or short stop loss. TEB, trend entry short, signals a short entry. EB, exit buy, signals short re-entry, long stop loss, or short cover. With these definitions in place, let's now examine all three timeframes and identify the current market structure for Doge. Let's walk through each timeframe from the highest to the lowest, starting with the weekly chart. The weekly shows an EB signal at the top left, which triggered the macro downtrend. Price declined significantly. In the lower right zone, we can see multiple consecutive TS signals, 3 TS signals appearing in the low zone. These weekly TS signals represent the market repeatedly attempting a bullish recovery from deeply oversold levels. After these TS signals, there has been no new weekly EB or TB to invalidate them. Weekly bias, long. The TS cluster at the low zone is holding, and the macro recovery attempt is still in progress. Moving to the daily chart. The daily shows a sequence of TB signals in the middle section, which created bearish pressure. Then multiple ES signals appeared on the right side, pushing price significantly higher. This was the daily bullish recovery phase. However, at the top right of the daily chart, a new TEB signal has appeared at elevated levels. This daily TEB is a bearish entry signal at the high zone, indicating that the daily rally has now encountered selling pressure and is entering a pullback or distribution phase. Daily bias, bearish, driven by TEB at the high zone. Now the 4-hour chart. The 4-hour shows a TEB signal on the left, followed by an EB signal. These created short-term bearish pressure. Then an ES signal appeared, indicating a short-term recovery. Most recently, on the lower right of the 4-hour chart, a TES signal has appeared. This TS signals a short-term long entry at the low zone on the 4-hour. After this TS, the price has been bouncing. However, there is no clean ES add-on confirmation yet, meaning the bounce has not been fully confirmed as an extension. 4-hour bias, short-term bullish bounce via TES, but not yet confirmed as a sustained extension. Summary of the three timeframes. Weekly is long via TES cluster. Daily is bearish via TEB at the high. 4-hour is short-term bouncing via TES, without ES confirmation. This is a classic split structure. Weekly and 4-hour are leaning long, but the daily is pointing bearish. This is not a clean confluence setup. This is a mixed signal divergence environment. With a split 3 timeframe structure, let's define your exact trading playbook for Doge. The 3 timeframe consensus. Weekly long via TES cluster, daily bearish via TEB, 4-hour short-term bounce via TES without ES confirmation. The system rule is, use the weekly and daily to determine trend direction, and use the 4-hour for entry timing. When the weekly and daily disagree, the system requires you to stand aside and wait for alignment. The current situation is, weekly says long, daily says short. These two are in conflict. The 4-hour TES is only a short-term bounce within a daily bearish structure. It does not override the daily TEB. Therefore, the correct action is stand aside. Do not open new positions. Here is why. The weekly TES cluster is still valid. You cannot chase short against a weekly long recovery. The daily TEB is now dominant. You cannot open a clean long when the daily has just printed a TEB at the high zone. The 4-hour TES bounce is occurring inside a daily bearish structure. It is not a standard multi-time frame long setup. The lack of a 4-hour ES confirmation makes this bounce even less reliable. Here is your standard operating procedure for each scenario. If you are currently flat, do not open any new position. Wait for the daily to resolve its current TEB structure. You need to see the daily flip back to TES or ES before entering a new long. Alternatively, if the weekly also prints an EB or TEB, then the macro direction has shifted to bearish, and you can look for short entries aligned with the daily. If you are holding a long position, the 4-hour TES bounce can provide some short-term relief, but because the daily has printed a TEB, reduce your expectations significantly. Watch for the 4-hour to print an ES. That would be a better confirmation of bounce continuation. If the 4-hour prints an EB, exit the long immediately. If the daily prints a new TS or ES, the daily long structure is recovering, and you can reassess your position. If you are holding a short position, the daily TEB is in your favor. However, the weekly TS cluster is still valid, which means you are shorting against a macro long recovery. This is a counter-trend short. Keep it small and do not be greedy. If the 4-hour prints an ES signal, that is your stop loss. Exit the short immediately. Do not hold a short through a 4-hour ES in a weekly long structure. Now let's look at the two key scenarios going forward. Scenario A, daily recovers long. The daily TEB is just a temporary high zone pullback. The daily prints a new TES or ES signal. The 4-hour TES holds and eventually prints an ES confirmation. This would restore the weekly long plus daily long alignment, and you can re-enter longs on the next 4-hour TES or ES signal. This is the scenario where Doge resumes its recovery rally. Scenario B, bearish pressure escalates. The daily TEB is followed by more bearish signals, a new daily EB, or the weekly also prints an EB or TEB. The 4-hour TS fails and an EB appears. This would signal that the Doge recovery rally has failed, and the entire structure is shifting back to bearish. In this case, stand aside from longs and wait for the weekly to confirm the new direction before considering shorts. In summary, Doge USDT on May 9th shows a split 3 timeframe structure. Weekly long via TES cluster. Daily bearish via TEB at the high. 4-hour short-term bounce via TES without ES confirmation. Per the system rules, this is not a standard confluence setup. The correct action is to stand aside and wait. Wait for the daily to flip back to TS or ES before entering long. Or wait for the weekly to also confirm bearish before entering short. Stay patient, stay disciplined, and follow the signals. This analysis is for signal system interpretation and trading discipline reference only, not investment advice.